Hello, and welcome to our technical overview of SmartConnect with Dynamics NAV. SmartConnect is an integration platform developed by E1 Solutions, which provides full integration to several different systems. Many of the features and the functionality within SmartConnect apply no matter which system you connect to, and in this video, we'll be focusing on key features that can help expand and improve any integration with Dynamics NAV. For reference, we'll be looking at a couple of integrations that were used in our NAV overview demo. If you haven't seen that video and you want to see what the end results look like when the integrations are running in the background and tying the systems together, I recommend checking it out. For this video, we're going to be diving straight into the map setup of an existing integration. We're going to take a look at this ongoing sales order integration, and we're going to use it as the basis for all of the different features we'll cover. As a quick summary of what we'll be going through, we'll walk through the data source and destination of an integration. Then we'll move into the field mappings and the additional columns that are available. Finally, we'll take a quick look at what functionality can be added around an integration, the tasks, error handling, and scheduling that we can enable. Now, the two main components of any integration that we open up are the data source and the destination. If we take a look at the data source type, we can see we've broken into three main categories. We have a bulk data load, which is going to be your most common option. And then we also have the changes only and the real time. Now, the changes only and the real time are used mainly for an ongoing integration or a synchronization. As the name implies, changes only allows you to track the creates, updates, or deletes on any records, and it will track those changes. So the next time the integration runs, it's only going to bring in those relevant records that have been changed. Real time allows us to track those same three events, but it takes it a step further. Anytime a create, update, or delete event is seen, if the trigger is enabled, it's immediately going to fire off that integration that's attached to it. For this video, we'll leave it at the bulk data load, and we'll expand our data source type underneath that. Now, the data sources under the bulk load have a wide range of options we can choose from, and this is why I said the bulk data load is the most common type. We can pull anything ranging from a folder data source, where we don't specify it to a specific file, but instead choose an entire directory to look at, all the way up to a REST-based web service. So if you have a cloud application you need to pull data down through its API, we can enable the definition for that within SmartConnect and then pull in the data we need. We can also go ahead and use these legacy drivers of ODBC and OLEDB and connect to any database-based system. Most commonly, that would be your SQL server that you may want to pull data from. Finally, if we wanted to pull data from Dynamics NAV, we can choose the Dynamics NAV option within our dropdown, and it's going to pull a list of any published web service that we have within NAV and allow us to use those as a data source. Now, expanding on that, that's exactly what we've done as part of this data source. Now, we've made it a little bit more complicated as we've made it a multi-source, which means we can pull data from more than one system. In this case, we're using a generic ODBC connection to pull from a regular SQL table, and then we're also pulling data from our Dynamics NAV system. So let's take a look at the NAV component of this data source. I'll double click it to open it up. And we can see that the data source type, we've chosen Dynamics NAV, we've chosen our company of Kronos USA, and then the drop-down for the service name after that allows us to see all of the different page services we have published. So we've chosen the customer card service for this integration, and then we've also applied a filter to it. So we can either leave the filters off and pull every record that the service would return, or we can go ahead and apply a filter. In this case, we're looking at the last date modified field and making sure that criteria is set to today. So this is going to ensure that even though we're doing a bulk source pulling data from Dynamics NAV, the criteria is going to ensure that we're only pulling customer records that have been modified on today's date. Now, if we switch over to the destination from the data source, we can see that we've chosen Dynamics NAV on here. Now, our destination dropdown is going to be different depending on how many connectors you have set up within your system. In this particular case, we've set up both our Dynamics NAV connector along with a couple other Dynamics products and Salesforce as well. So our dropdowns may change depending on your own system. Now, once we've selected Dynamics NAV, once again, our service name that we get to choose from is based on the list of published web services within our Dynamics NAV instance. So any of those published page services we can pull in. In this case, we're interacting with the sales order endpoint. Now once we grab that, it gives us both our sales order and our sales order line, and then the option to run the delete command on either of those. Now within these is where we match up the actual fields that we're passing from the data source to the destination. So if I highlight the sales order header and click on the map button, we can see that all of the destination parameters on the right are based off the endpoint that we have open. So in this case, we're looking at the sales order header. On the left-hand side, we have all of our source columns, along with any additional columns that we happen to create as part of the process. Now, to do the field mapping between the systems, if you have a field that you know is going to match up directly across, we can go ahead and just drag and drop your mapping from the left-hand side over to the right. So if I know that this number field actually holds the campaign number, I can click and drag that over, and it's going to map it to my destination system. If I don't want a field in place, I can remove the mapping, and I can either leave it blank to let it default, or I can create an additional column if I need to go ahead and manipulate the data before I pass it into the system. And that's exactly what we've done for both the customer name and the contact on the sales order record. So let's take a look at the additional columns that we can apply to our field mapping. As you can see when I open the column dropdown, there's a wide range of options we have based on the functionality that we want to perform within a particular integration. The top two options are Dynamics NAV specific. The page key lookup would allow us to pull back a key field on a particular record when we query the NAV services. The page field lookup functions in a similar manner, except it allows us to pull back any field we want based off of a query that we've performed. We'll take a look at one of those existing ones in our additional column list in just a moment. The other options we have on here are mainly for manipulating data that's being passed through. So if your date column is not in a correct format, we can go ahead and modify that as part of the integration. The calculated option allows us to run any script that we want as part of the process. And then finally, the translation allows us to convert values from a list of existing values we have in our system to the expected output, as oftentimes your data is not going to match between your source and your destination and map through directly. So let's take a look at the two additional columns we have on this particular map. The page field lookup allows us to go ahead and pull back a particular value. So we're going to be looking at the customer discount group, pulling that back from our NAV customer, and we're going to be comparing the number from our data source to the number on the destination field. If that finds a match, we'll get our discount group pulled in, and it'll be a successful lookup, and we can then use it as part of our integration. Our calculated option allows us to go ahead and manipulate any of our source data that we have coming in from our source. So we have both the first name and the last name included in this particular script, and we're just concatenating the two together and making sure there's a space between them. Once that code executes, we then return that, and we can map that to our destination field as needed. So now that we have all of the field mappings handled and the basic setup of the map complete, let's look at how we can expand on the integration. One of the common areas where we can do that expansion is on the tasks within SmartConnect. Now, tasks can be ran either before the map, during each document or during each record that's running, and then also after the map has completed, whether the map is returned either a failure or success based on whether the records passed their validation. Now, if I right click on any of these lines, you can see the list of different tasks that we're able to include. And a few of the most common ones are the run map command, which allows you to chain multiple maps or multiple integrations together, and you can run them one after another. The run script command is very similar to that calculated window that I opened up as part of the additional columns. That allows you to write any VB.NET or any C# code that you want to expand on the current process of the integration. And then also the send email command is a common task that would be put on the map failure or map success, depending on if the customer client wants to return the errors that are returned or thrown during the map run, or if they just want to use it on the map success level and alert users in the company that records have been created. Now, if we enable the send email alert for the map post task on the failure, we are also going to want to track those errors in a more permanent manner. So that can be done through the options tab within SmartConnect, where we can turn on the different logging options. The log errors option, when that's enabled, is going to write the errors to a pair of tracing tables within the SmartConnect database. And this is going to return or record all the needed header level information like the map ID, the run number, what date time the map ran, how many records went through, etc. And also record the record level information. So any records that failed, it's going to record those fields, and it's also going to show you what the error was that prevented the record from being integrated. The last thing we might want to look at is scheduling the integration. When we click on the schedule option, it allows us to go ahead and configure how we want this integration to run behind the scenes. Now, any integration that isn't configured as a real-time trigger or real-time data source can be scheduled within SmartConnect, and we have a few different options that we can choose from. The daily, weekly, monthly, or once options all determine the overall schedule of the integration. In this case, we're going to stick with weekly, and we're going to run it Monday through Friday, and then we get to choose when we want it to actually execute during Monday through Friday. So I want to run this during the workday. I'm going to say we want to start running this integration at 6 in the morning, but we don't want it to run it just once in the morning. In this case, I want it to repeat throughout the day. So I'm going to run this every hour, and we're going to run it 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now these times can be changed. You can run this 24/7. We could start it at midnight and run it all day long, Monday through Sunday, or we can go ahead and limit it and try to focus it around work hours, depending on what your scenario needs. Now with that, we've completed the setup, or we went through the overview of the setup for a full integration for both the data source and the destination, how those fields can be mapped for the destination system, and then we also looked at adding tasks, email alerts, error tracking, and then finally scheduling the integration. Thanks for watching this technical overview of SmartConnect for Dynamics NAV. If you're ready to get started with SmartConnect, you can request a 30-day free trial from our SmartConnect overview page at e1solutions.com, or you can request to speak with one of our team members at sales@e1solutions.com. Thanks again for watching.
To learn more about SmartConnect, go to e1solutions.com, where you can take a product tour, see a demo, and start your free 30-day trial.